Hey guys, the EverQuest 2 servers are still down right now, so I can't log in yet. But I was going and looking on the forums just to kind of see what's going on there, and I see that I'm not the only person who's noticed and made note of some of the broken uh quest drops um in there. And I was like, well, okay. So I see that there's some other bug reports and various things beyond individual quests. They're also um, talking about just overall some of the uh, some of the broken bits and bobs. Then I was looking and I saw. Let me see if I can go back to it. Someone discussing something that I had also mentioned, and I haven't looked in detail at it yet, but I wanted to read it with you guys. If I can find where it went, here we are. It was a suggestion. And the suggestion was, let's go up to the start. It's from PvP Medics. PvP Medics says, hey everyone, I've been playing on the TLE servers for a while now and really enjoy the experience. But like many players, I've noticed that every TLE tends to slow down and lose activity once we reach around level 95. Which I think that's fair to say. I can agree that that's when things definitely kind of went downhill overall, or started to really kind of drop off. Well, let's see. Okay, so he says that a new TLE starts and the cycle repeats. The Origin server has been a great step forward, slowing progress. Slowing progress helps keep things fresh longer, but we're still ultimately revisiting the same content we've experienced many times before. For a lot of us who prefer TLE servers, it's because we enjoy the pace and balance of the older game. And again, I would agree with this. Um, he says, we're not interested in the live servers with their inflated stats, ascension classes, and over the top systems. Personally, that's why I stick to TLE. The gameplay just feels more grounded and classic. That said, I'd love to see some of the later expansions adapted for the TLE environment. What if certain higher level expansions could be scaled down and re-released as new content for TLE servers? Hmm. See, I'm not sure. I'm not sure how I feel about that. Let's see. He says, for example, take something like Kunark Ascending, remove Ascension classes, adjust the optimization and difficulty, and re-release it as level 80 or 90 expansion. I know this might be a big ask from a developer standpoint, but even partial reworks like this could breathe new life into the TLE experience. It would let us explore new zones and stories we've never been able to enjoy without having to move to live servers, keeping things fresh while staying true to the spirit of classic EQ2. Thanks for reading and things. Okay. Now, I think my biggest argument here is that I think that perhaps I don't agree that that's the whole problem, right? I think that with the, okay, Um, with the live servers, I feel like the problem there is a lot deeper than just it goes too fast. Um, I think that I don't even know how to start to fix what went wrong with live because it's so deep and it's in every aspect of what's going on there. And I say went wrong. I mean for me personally, right? So like, um, oh look, we're back up. But for some people, I think they like live just fine. For me, I don't like a lot of things about it, and I don't know that it has as much to do with the particular speed of leveling and things like that. I'm not sure if that's necessarily part of the problem. I think, and I've mentioned this before, I think a lot of it is we've got these very streamlined quests. Instead of being broad like they were previously, where you can do the quests or not do the quests. They're not necessary. You can continue to play the game, like at the point that Origins is at right now, without doing any specific quest lines. Mind you, it's not going to be as your character's not going to be as good off, right? If you don't do certain heritage quests and things like that, then you're missing out on some opportunities. But that's still it's you can play the game at your level, do the zones, and be drug along through them or whatever. If that's what's necessary, you can do that. On live, if you don't do the quest line, you can't go into the group zones. At least last time I played, that was the case. You could go into the solo zones. You could bring a friend. You could bring a merc. There's a lot of opportunity for that, but you can't go in and bring. You can't go in with a group. You can't go with a pickup group. You can't go with friends. Nothing into the sorry, having to use the whole brain for a whole second. But you can't go into a group zone until you've done the quest line. So essentially you're being forced to do the quest line in order to do the content in any regard on live. And I think that's a big problem. I don't believe you should be forced to do a quest line. Not everybody enjoys questing, and that's okay. And to say, okay, here's these, I don't know, 20 some odd quests that everyone has to do, and if you don't do it, you actually can't play. That's a little much, you know? That should be looked at, in my opinion. Um, and so I don't think that you could just take live and remove, as he said, remove ascensions and then um, slow down the progress and call it a day. I really don't think that would be sufficient, or in fact, I'm not sure. It seems it seems like a lot more would have to be done to make it work. Um, making the quests, even just making the quests optional, isn't really sufficient because, yes, they could go in and say, well, you don't need to do these quests in order to open the zones, right? And that would be very helpful because I think it would encourage a lot of people who maybe would rather quit playing than do a quest line that they're not interested in, because that is another problem with quest line. Quest lines need to be interesting also. But that aside, even if you said that, still you're going to be limiting your audience because the again, it's essentially one quest that you're having to do. And yes, there are a very, very, very few quests outside of those that you can do in the newer zones. But realistically, it's one quest. You may have, I don't know, a few, three or four that aren't in that timeline, or aren't in that quest line rather. But realistically, and most of those you don't even know they exist unless you are really paying attention as you're doing it, and you go, oh wait, this is a little strange, or this person over here is acting a little odd, and you may be able to figure it out like that, or maybe you check the forums and you find stuff that way. But either way, um, they're not very, necessarily with a book over the head kind of quests. Primarily, you're doing the one quest line, and and I feel like that's an issue for a game called EverQuest, right? Where theoretically you would have a lot of different options, things that you can do as far as quests are concerned. I feel like that's kind of what people are expecting with a game just going in, and again, when the name of the game is EverQuest, perhaps that indicates that there might be a lot of quests to do, and there are. But in this case, it's very streamlined quests. It's reminiscent to me of the Star Wars Galaxies system, which, as we all know, Star Wars Galaxies shut down, right? And part of the reason that I personally didn't enjoy Star Wars Galaxies very much in addition to the fact that my computer could barely run it. But the other issue is that the quests were very, very streamlined. You would just, you didn't really have a lot of options of other things to do. So um, that was my take on it. And so obviously I am not representative of everyone, but I feel like the evidence, the statistics weighs in the direction of uh, people not enjoying the way that EverQuest 2 went as opposed to the way that it had begun. When you see a large number of people who stop playing at a certain point, and I think that PvP Medics is correct to a large degree that there was a drop off in players, uh, and that there continues to be a drop off in players on these servers when it hits around 95 is what he said. That makes sense to me. I haven't played on a lot of the TLEs, so I can't say for sure that that's accurate for these. I'm sure it probably is. But it's somewhere around there is where things got pretty rough. Um, you'll notice though that what I'm saying also happened at around that time period where things, you just stopped having the versatility, the choices available to you of what to do, and that became worse and worse as the game continued. If you enjoyed that, like I said, if you really just like grinding dungeons all day, and that's what you want to do with your time in a game, is just go in and do the same dungeons, say 3 dungeons, 4 dungeons a day, over and over, with no goal in mind beyond loot drops, and with no, really just no other goals, is to try to get better gear. Um, and I know that there are definitely people out there who do like that. And if that's what you like, then live is great. Um, if that's not what you like, though, I feel like it's very tedious and boring for me personally to do that. And it's not what I enjoy about EverQuest 2. Um, I think that a lot of people were still liking it in the Shadow Odyssey. Definitely, everybody loved that. For I'm going to say a lot of people loved that expansion. Um, it was still going okay. Just sort of uh, treading water during the Sky Shrine stuff. I cannot think of the name of that expansion, but regardless, the Sky Shrine expansion, people were still pretty active, I would say. Um, it just I feel like that was kind of um the last time when there was more activity. I think a lot of people left after that, or I don't know if they left or if they just, I'm not sure exactly what happened, but certainly everything kind of dropped off worse. It was already dropping off. People were already dissatisfied, right? Before then. But by then, there was dissatisfaction to a large degree. And yeah, I don't know. I don't know. It was not quite so bad off as far as the grind as it became later, but it was very, very much going in that direction by then. I really personally feel like um, let's see if I can remember the name of it. The Sentinel's Fate. I think Sentinel's Fate was kind of the beginning of and just the very, very beginning of the issues that would become what is now happening on live. But anyway, that's my 2 cents. I just ran across that in the forums today, and while I was waiting on the game to come up, and I thought that was a topic we've touched on before, and someone was making this suggestion in the suggestions threads there, um, for for EQ2 developers to look at, and I certainly am not going to discount what he was saying at all. But also I feel like there's so much more to it that needs to be considered, and maybe I'll go on and post on that thread to that effect, because I do think that it's something to be taken into account. Um, and I don't know, maybe there's not a lot of people giving feedback like that and letting them know what exactly is going wrong. I remember, and I don't know if they still do, but they used to send out polls periodically, and it was kind of interesting because every character that you have would get hit with this poll in the mail, and so each of your characters, not just each account, but each of your characters had a vote in different things that they would be asking about, wanting to, and so clearly they were trying to get feedback from the community. What it means is that the more characters you had, the more of a vote you got, which that's kind of fair. That makes some sense. It means that you're probably more invested in the game because you have more characters. That implies a level of investment, more skin in the game, as they call it, right? So it makes some sense to do it that way. Of course, it also means, I don't know, it's a mixed bag, I would say. It means that people who've been playing longer and therefore have gotten to a point of having more characters have a bigger say, which again, there's some sense to be had there. But at the same time, there could be a new player who's, very invested and still only gets 1 or 2 votes, as opposed to the person who's been playing for 20 years and has, 32 votes or something like that. That being said, you would have to have logged into each of those characters and cast your vote. I don't know. It was a system. I'm not necessarily being critical of that system at all. I'm just stating the fact that that's how it was done. And like I said, I don't know how often that's being done now because I haven't logged into live in a while, and I haven't played on live in much longer than that. So uh, my take it with a grain of salt. It may or may not still be happening. I don't know if it was I don't know if it was that effective in some ways, because only certain kinds of people take polls. Um, Realistically, from a psychological standpoint, there's an entire group of people out there who's not going to weigh in at all in this way, because they are not that kind of person. And it doesn't mean that they're not, in abundance as far as the players in the game are concerned. There are always going to be people who are in the background. They're enjoying themselves and they don't feel the need to do something like that, to weigh in with their opinion for one reason or another. And what you're doing by basing your choices, on polls, is you're eliminating that the feedback, the other types of feedback that you might be getting from people who are not participants in polls or on forums. Um, it's kind of an issue, and I hope that that's not all that they were considering was the responses and their abilities, and it probably wasn't. But if it was, that's a problem. Um, Squeaky wheel gets the grease, they say, but the fact of the matter is that most people are not squeaky wheels, which is, going to affect overall your retention rate of players. So you can instead, as you know, as a developer, you can look at the effect regarding your population and your subscribers to the game, and not just subscribers, because some people keep their subscription even though they're not playing. And on the one hand, you might say, well, you're still getting your money, who cares? That's not the reality. Because, again, as I've mentioned before, EverQuest 2 is a social game. It's a community game. And if there are fewer people in the game, if there's a lower population in the game, then there will be many, many other people who were otherwise satisfied who will now be dissatisfied because they don't have that community vibe that they're looking for, even if the amount of subscribers doesn't drop significantly. If the population of the servers drops, then that's going to domino effect. The more it drops, the more it will continue to drop without something being done. The obvious thing is if changes have been made, whether people have said that that's what they wanted in polls or not, whether that's what they've said they wanted on the forums or not, if the population drops, there's a reason for that. And sometimes it can be external. It may not necessarily be because you've done something that has driven them away. It may be that another game that was very hyped and very people are very excited about has just come out. Having your kind of having your toe in that water, let's say, and figuring out like what else is going on in the world um, is a good idea as well, because you don't want to leap to the conclusion necessarily that it was something that you did. But if you just made a change and the population has now dropped within say a month of making that change, you might want to reevaluate, was that change good or was that change bad, and to continue go along a line that has resulted in a dropped population, and to see it continue to drop and continue to do the same thing may not be the best idea. That's what I'm saying. So, hopefully, there's something that can be done about this in the long term, because I don't know, but it seems to me that the population on live has continued to drop. And not only that, a lot of those people who were playing on live have moved to TLEs, whether it's Origins or not. Some TLE they've jumped on because they're unhappy with what's going on live. And I think that that's something that the developers definitely need to explore. So, it's my 2 cents on the whole thing. I do hope that there's a fix for the issue. It would be nice if, and I've mentioned before, if it were possible, and I realize that resources are limited, but if it were possible to go a different direction with one of these TLEs, and this is what PvP Medics was also saying, if they could go a different direction with one of these TLEs, I think that they could widen their audience and potentially revitalize the game. It would be, I'm all for an EverQuest 3. If that comes out, I'll jump on board, sure. But in the meanwhile, working with what is already here, I think could be doable. Unfortunately, it would require some pretty big changes from the way that it went. They could take the basic storylines and keep that. But the problem is, as mentioned, they would have to diversify the way it works. Probably it would be okay to keep the quest line that they have on you know, some of these that are just, like I said, just streamlined. This is the whole quest line. This is all we do. As long as it wasn't required to open up the dungeons, and as long as there were some other options beyond what is currently there. Um, if they could have a team working on essentially an alternate, uh, I don't want to say an alternate timeline, maybe an alternate timeline would work, server, something that once it hits, I think maybe actually the Great Divide. Let's see, what was that? Destiny of Elowys. All right, maybe after Destiny of Elowys, perhaps would be a good time to start going off course from what they did before. And by that, like I said, I mean expanding the quest to not just be this one quest line, and then not requiring that you do any quest line really in order to be able to do group zones with your friends. It's weird, really, to me because they had originally had access quests, and as you'll note on Origins, they don't have those access quests that they once had. You don't have to open up enchanted pens. You don't have to open up Zek. You don't have to open up Fury. There are things that you have to have done, like in Nek Castle, which I was in there yesterday. In order to progress through the castle, somebody in your group has to have opened the doors. But not everybody in the group has to have opened the doors, right? So, has to have unlocked that ability to open the doors. Um, so it's still doable with your friends who have progressed further in that quest line than you have. That to me makes a lot of sense. If you want to go hang out with your friends and your friends have already done this, then no problem. You too can enjoy the ability to go in and do a zone that you haven't spent the time and whatever to get opened up. So it's interesting to me that they removed these access quests for Origins, and they did long ago on Live as well. And then now on Live, it's essentially access quests that you have to do because you can't go into dungeons until you've done these quests. I'm going to call that an access quest, right? So they removed them because they were not appreciated, and then now they've put them back. That's a little weird. Something they know did not work, they've re-implemented. And then they're like, oh, this isn't working, how strange. But anyway, that's my rant of the moment. I think I covered most of it. That being said, I do enjoy doing the access quests personally, but I also enjoy the fact that they're not required in order to go to Enchanted Lands. I don't have to do uh, the the access quest for that, but they did leave it in the game. That's cool. I like that. Let's be able to do it if we want to do it. But let's not have to do it in order to be able to play with our friends, you know, in a zone. Right? I think so. In the meanwhile, I'm merrily working on some trade skill writs. Look at that vitality, 29.3%. Amazing. Can't beat it. Well, you can, but I can't anytime recently, so I'm pretty happy with it overall. And 37.5% of the level now. Also, don't know if you guys saw, finally did get 38 the other day as a jeweler, and was able to make some jewelry. And in fact, I need to make another piece or two of that while I'm in here now. So I'll try to remember to do that before I run out. Maybe after I finish this red, I'll recall that I'll need to do that. We'll see. At any rate, I think I may go back onto that comment on that thread regarding the suggestions for continuing a TLE server. It doesn't matter which one, you know. It would be cool if it was Origins. It feels like that would be a proper choice, partially because it's a server that you select from the drop down in the upper left on the launch pad. So it's already separated in that way from other servers. So it feels like that could be one that they could very easily expand upon in a different direction. And I'm open to other things if they have, other ideas that they want to do instead of that, to move forward in it. It doesn't really matter. Just try something different than what clearly didn't work, right? Because personally, I mean, I went along with it for a long while because realistically, even with all the changes, even with the fact that it definitely became grindy, at the end of the day, EverQuest 2 was still the best game in town, you know? Um, so I went along with it for a long time, in spite of not being especially happy with the direction that it went. Finally, it became too much for me. Um, the something about it just was like a job. And as I've mentioned before, when you're playing a game and you're trying to relax, um you shouldn't feel like, oh, I have to do my dailies because this is my opportunity to advance in this game, is by doing this daily RNG uh thing, right? And then there's the weeklies, right? And so let's not forget crafting, because you've got the dailies and the weeklies on there at that point too. And so it's like, okay, I did my dailies on, my main that I'm playing right now. Now I gotta switch over to the alt, and however many characters you have, you're doing not only the adventure level stuff, but also the trade skill level stuff over and over again with all of your characters. Or if you only have one or two mains, then you're just doing the same thing over and over with the same characters, which is even more painful than I mean, if you're switching characters, at least you have some variety in what buttons you're pressing at the very least. But if you only have one or two, that's what you're doing all day. And I don't think, judging from, again, population density, I don't think that most people really love do that. Feels like that's a lot of the issue, more than anything else. The repetitive nature of this, and the emphasis on the loot, I think, is another thing. Like, it's as though on live the only thing you're trying to do is get the best loot, which has never been my purpose for playing the game. And I think that's true for a lot of EverQuest players, a lot of EverQuest 2 players and EverQuest players. There needs to be something a little bit deeper than, hey, I have the best chest piece in the game. Do we really, do we really care about that so much? I think that certain people definitely do. And I feel that a lot of the raiders do. But I also feel like that's a small percentage of the people who were initially interested in EverQuest 2 and the people who come to play. I could be wrong, but that's my feelings on it. And again, the numbers have kind of backed me up on that. At any time of the day on Origins, you can do a /who all, and it will say that there are 100 people on the server. It does not matter if it's 3 in the morning, it will say 100 people. And the reason it will is because that's the maximum number that it will report. What it means is that there are more than 100 people at any given time on Origins. And that's just on Anashti Sul. There's also Dozakar. I don't know how the population is over there because I don't have any characters there. But certainly it's always like that. I'll do it right now. Show the /who all. 100 players every time. Now, if you get specific about it, what you'll find is that hardly any of those are guardians. Hardly any of those are mystics. It's interesting and understandable because mystics and guardians are very boring to level alone. And I think that a lot of the people who are making a character on this server are anticipating doing a lot of soloing. I really personally don't think it's necessary to do a lot of soloing. I think what's happened is people have become used to the concept that you solo in EverQuest 2. And that's a mentality that comes from Live. Because realistically, Guardians and Mystics are very much group-oriented characters. And so I think, in order to make a character that is a Guardian or a Mystic, you have to be aware that you are going to be doing a lot of grouping. And that is, that's overall a good thing because, again, it's a community game. So you should be doing a lot of grouping. Ruthenium Bangle, I believe is what I want. Yeah, my current Ruthenium, or my current Bangle, my current bracelet over here, is only 3 stamina, 3 agility, all that. And the one that I could have, the Ruthenium Bangle, is 10 of all the same stats that my current bracer is. So I'm going to definitely make myself Ruthenium Bangle. So got distracted from my ramblings there for a whole moment. By the way, I did discover the ban button the other day for the Twitch chat, so I've been able to, when people come on with things like the overwhelming hustle fellow earlier, with his best viewers span, I was able to ban him. So hopefully, over the course of time, there will be fewer of those. I know they're just going to, come at me with a different account or whatever like that, but nonetheless, kind of stem the tide a little bit with that. I don't know of any other way to do it. I think that, I know that there's some automatic stuff that goes on with, the robots on Twitch or whatever, trying to keep things under control to some degree. But for sure, the ban button ought to come into play somewhat, I think. Got to focus on getting this Ruthenium Bangle done. I was just keeping the durability up. We gotta make a little progress on this sucker. Alright, there we are. And I'm going to actually put that on right now. I'm going to go to my adventuring set and find where it went. There it is. Alright, so, yes, I'll replace the Aura's Bracelet of Sense with the pristine Ruthenium Bangle. Now, a couple more pieces I'm ultimately going to want is the belt and the neck piece. A neck piece is Greater Lightstone, which is a very good piece for level 20, but it's less good for level 34. So definitely want to do that. I think I'm going to go check the broker and see what it looks like as far as the price of ruthenium right now, like a ruthenium cluster. I got a few for under a platinum the other day, and that's, to me, that's a good price. So I'm gonna go see if I can find some more for a reasonable price. And again, if it's under a platinum, I mean, I'm pretty happy with that, really. It's ruthenium cluster. Yeah, no, it's a little over a platinum each, which, truly isn't bad. You notice that there's only 5 of them on the broker at all. So much of that has to do with using them to make spells for the mage types. Alright, we're going to turn this one in and go ahead and pick up the next one in this from this fellow. 48% in, 23.7% vitality is left, so I better grab it from the work table before I head back. And I don't know that I'm going to go back and do that right now. I could, but I may save some of that for later and go see about turning in some of these other things, because I did do a little bit in Nek. Well, I say I did a little bit in Nek Castle. That's not the full extent, I suppose. I did more than a little bit. I did the entirety of Nek Castle yesterday, as far as getting down to Lord Everling. For some reason, I was saying Barsoom yesterday. I meant Everling. So I do need to get down and, get the first update for putting Malteena to rest. It's a level 50 quest, so it's not something that I'm in a big hurry about. But there's a dude I need to talk to out there, and I may as well knock that quest out. I don't want to go do this one, Made for the Mist Part 2, because that is one of the ones that takes you on a boat ride, and I would like some folks with me before I go do that. Dragoon K'naea, I still need some more kills for that. May as well get it done. Have to kill Queen Delina. Last I saw her, she was a blue heroic, and I didn't play with her. I may do that, and by do that, I mean I may go get killed by her. Not sure. Really the only one that I'm particularly interested in doing at this point would be the Dragoon K'naea, because I need 9 more of those guys. And it would be a good idea to knock that out right now. So, let's head that way. I've been kind of clearing out a lot of the Nek Forest quests. I was able to do quite a few of the ones in Nek Castle while I was there yesterday. Didn't finish by any stretch of the imagination, but did do quite a few of them, to the extent that I now have two slots open even after picking up a bunch of things. And so I feel like I made pretty good progress in that. still have yet to find that striped red ant in Thundering Steppes. It's for the quest from Elowys Laceleaf on Thundering Steppes docks, and she is just out of luck for the moment because I check every time I run through there for a shiny near the docks, and not been able to get that particular ant. It'll be a fine day when I do. However, I will still have to find another one at some point in the future for myself. So, because I have not found it for my own update, for my own collection. Finishing out other people's collections before I finish my own, isn't that about right? I'm gonna go ahead and I should have really, while I was at the in the area, ought to have sold this old bangle, ye old bracelet. This Augur's bracelet of sense I ought to have sold while I was there, but alas, I did not. I actually have quite a bit of armor I need to throw on the broker or sell to a vendor, possibly. Oh well, didn't do it, and I shouldn't be in any need of doing it right now because I've got enough for it that I should be able to go do my current goal right now. I also need to check the broker very soon for some upgrades for these abilities on my hotbar here. I actually got an adept for this out of the bank, or sorry, out of the depot, the guild depot. And so I think I can replace the one I have. Let's see. 510 melee and area of effect. This is up to 370, so absolutely can. So we'll clear that, and then we'll go ahead and allow Dragwool and drag this down in its place. Cancel that so that it goes back to no allowing of the Dragwool. And saying hello to a guildmate. Also, my chat is stuck open this morning, just to warn you. You have probably already noticed.
I greet you.
Oh, 3:30. That is ridiculous. So you've been up for quite some time then. I'm on the great hunt for the striped red ant. All right, hey, found it over here. Awesome. Let's get that. And it occurs to me she was not hearing me anyway. All right, cool. But now she doesn't have to hear my ceaseless ramblings. What have we got here? We've got a unscathed Ixar bone. Antonica? How's Antonica? What a question. No idea. Heh, RTS now, she says. Heading to that. Failed to update. That's what happened. Failed to update Ling Malteena rest while I was there. And we better stop by the mender just in case he doesn't have anything. So let's see here. On to Nek Forest. Ah, yes, we cannot update with Captain Corrigan. So I'm pretty sure that's how you end up getting on a boat. Chaldea says efficiency is overrated. Yeah. Better to run around. Did I get all my accesses? Yes. And killed Everling. Now, let's see here. What else was I going to do? Was there anything particular? There was a Dragoon Lieutenant. I could give him a shot. He's right over here. Give him a try. Alright, let's go this way a little bit more. Because we need to go over to Gul'thex Citadel. He'll be right out front. But he's not right now. He can be right out front. Apparently today is not the day. Let's see if there are any on track. I don't know. Yeah, okay, let's see. Lieutenant inside. We don't want any of those inside lieutenants. Let's see if we've got any wandering around outside. I doubt it, honestly. They're gonna try to chase me and stuff. We don't really care about all that. I do need some other Gul'thex guys. I think I might need the Mystics. Not sure. Ah, what? We'll run those guys off unless they, snare me and kill me. But let's see, I think, a few more steps there. All right, but let's see, I think there's a few more that I need. Yeah, Mystics, that's what I need. Okay. So, maybe I try to get that. I don't know. Let's uncheck this so we don't have that going on. See if we can kite this guy a bit. We don't want to get too far away from him, because if we do, then we can't hit him with the arrows. But we don't want him to get too close, or he can start hitting us. Like that. Yeah, slowly but surely, we were winning. Losing now, however. It's a slow process. Uh-oh, and I've gotten another, so can't win that fight. I'm out. All right. Feign death, very helpful. Got another guy on me, but that shouldn't matter at this point. Alright, then in that case, failure again on the Gul'thex Citadel area. In which case, I think I may as well go down to the docks station down here and take the Griffin up toward the Nek Forest area. Alright, almost to the station now. Just a little bit more of a run, and we'll be there. But gonna get a bit of a distraction here because hey, there's a shiny. What can I say?
Hello.
Alright, the Mars Ascent. Now, someone asked me to turn up my microphone yesterday. So I've turned it up. I don't know how that's sounding for you guys. Hopefully it's reasonable because I was told that the game sounds, while not loud, can sometimes be louder than my voice. So I did that.
Greetings,
And
traveler.
then I also turned down the alert sounds. So that ought to make things a little more pleasant, hopefully a little easier to hear me. And, on the way, I'm definitely going to grab this tree here. I'm apparently also going to grab a Dragoon sentry, but that's okay. I don't mind him. Easy peasy. Keep my eye out for more of those treants on my way um, because it's difficult to find treant lore and legend pieces that are, easy to take down and all that. So, might as well get it while it's, nearby. Of course, that'll change soon because Echoes of Fador is coming out, and Echoes of Fador has pretty good area for such things. I believe there's a nice little spot to get some treants over there. In the meanwhile, though, we have these guys here. Left tibia I've already gotten, and so it's probably not going to work. For some reason, the drop quests are not functioning as intended. I think somehow they're not marked as refutable in this system, because when you get them, I'll show you what happens in just a minute. In fact, I guess I can show it to you right now, really. Alright, so we have this charred bone, left tibia. It's a quest starter. And so normally you examine it, and it gives you a quest. It says this bone appears to come from a rather small humanoid, such as halfling. Although it's not any different than the rest of the bones that litter the Nek Forest, there's something about this one that you want to keep. There's something about this one that you want to keep it. I could have phrased that a little better, but that's okay. That's what we've got. So we'll say put the bone in your quest satchel. There is no way to start a quest with this. And if you'll look, I don't have it currently. That quest is not here. So it's just not giving us the quest. And it's that way I've noticed with all of the quests, at least the ones in on the evil side. I'm not 100% sure if they're broken everywhere, but the ones that I've tried in Common Lands and in Nek Forest are not working. If you've done the quest before, then it doesn't let you have the quest again. And that even applies to things like the elephant training grounds. That was actually the first one that I noticed it with, because I had done the elephant training ground, gone in by myself, and then later I got the quest again, and my group mate also had the quest, and so we wanted to go do it together. Normally, that's a thing that you can do. It's actually intended to be done that way, for everyone to have the quest starter, and you all go into the instance. We tried to do that, and it wouldn't let me in because it wouldn't let me get the quest again. So that is something that's broken, and it seems to have been bug reported and everything. So I think they're aware of it, but it's been broken for maybe at least a couple of weeks so far. Oh, look, a patchwork. Oh my goodness, so many patchwork men. I suppose this implies nobody's been over here killing these guys since the server came back. Althea says lots of roots up here, and me with only 7 bag slots. Alright, we have just a few more of these updates to get. Now, as you can see, you don't always find an update just because you kill one of these dudes. But that's okay. Slowly but surely we make our way through. Let's see here. We've got a whole other bit to get. Did that guy, he's on a tree branch. Check him out. Man, how cool is that? Let's see here. We'll ask Calthea, what are the biggest bags at the moment? I think I have 18 slots. Yes, 18 slot bags. But I don't know what the biggest ones are right now. Oh, nice. 30-something bag from Mara. I think I had one from Boneyard. I wonder which one that is. forgotten how big Foonbies is. Foonbies is an enchanted lands bag. At the time that it came out, it was considered very large. You just absolutely had to do Foonbies to get that bag. I don't know how that compares currently, so I would be interested to find out what the bag size on that is. Too far away. That seems unlikely. But there we go. Let's see. Up this direction a little more. So Calthea says that the Tinkered one from Bone Marrow is probably the single largest bag in the game right now. The Wondrous Invention Quest. I'm going to ultimately need more of these skeletons for other quests, so it's kind of convenient. But I think these guys these ones are zombies. So they count for the undead, but they don't count for the zombie quest, unfortunately. I do have food and drink running, that's good. You never know with me, gotta make sure. I don't have any totems running at the moment, but I don't want to waste any if I have any left. Which actually, it doesn't even look like I have any totems. I know I gave some to Dawn yesterday because we were doing Tombs of Night, and Tombs of Night is a little hard on the tank. Thought it would help him regain his health a little faster. Oh, 42 slots for the tinkered bag. That's pretty good. be finished with this step of Dragoon K'naea pretty quickly now. Just as a reminder, Dragoon K'naea of the Thexians is a heritage quest. It's has you run here, there, and the other place, and it's got the Shiny Brass Halberd as its reward, which is great. Berserkers, Guardians, Paladins, and Shadow Knights. But primarily, it's a heritage quest, and so it gives you status points, gives your guild XP. So it's just a good one to knock out. I like doing all of the heritage quests. Personally, I like doing pretty much all of the quests. Just pleases me. But I especially like the heritage quests. I should be able to finish this off and then run over to update before I need to take a bit of a break. I haven't eaten yet today, and so getting a bit of food in my belly would be a good idea. And got a few other things I've got to get done, as usual. But I think I can probably finish off these undead and run over and see old Mr. K'naea over there. Let's see. We only need one more update. But as mentioned, just because something is killed that applies to this does not necessarily mean that you're going to get the trigger on this quest. So it says you need 60. That's, that's not really true. You need significantly more than 60 of these guys. That one did update. It's good. Ice is supposed to be here. I know that easy. So I think, I'm actually there is an area here, as I recall, where you can run over the mountain and come in kind of behind where he's at and get to him a lot faster than going around the entirety of this mountain range down along this way and around. Quicker to just go over. I don't think I need any more ash wolves at this point. I did for a while, but I don't now. Don't think I need any Thexians either, actually. Pretty sure I've gotten all my Thexian updates. There is a Dragoon Lieutenant over more in this area. Could do that, but right now, I'm going to just give this fellow here my update. So, Dragoon K'naea.
Salutations.
He says, "Do you bring proof of your deeds, or do you try my blade? Speak quickly, adventurer." I say, "Here is the proof you need." He says, "I had believed you would have proven too weak for this task. You surprised me with your return. As remarkable as your accomplishment was, I require another thing of you before I will trust you." And I say, "All right, what other task do you have in mind?" He says, "In this forest lies the pool of the behemoth. I wish a drink from that pool, but I dare not leave this area to do so. Take this flask and fill it with the water in that pool. The potency of the water fades quickly after it is removed from its source, so return with the flask in haste. Do this, and I'll trust you enough to remove my hand from my sword hilt for a short time." And I say, "I'll get the water for you." So that's a timed one. Once you get the water in this flask here, then you have, I don't really remember how long, but you don't have a long time to get it back to him. It's not, it's not in any way impossible to do or anything like that, but it is, a timed quest. So you do have to kind of have some idea of where he is, for instance, on your map. so that you can get to him. But you go all the way from over here, beginning with pond, up to where he is up here. I'm not going to run this right now because, as mentioned, I do have some things that I've got to get done. Oh, look, there's Claw. But I'll kind of get a little more in this direction. And go check out this lieutenant. After I fight these wasps, obviously. Alright, let's see. Now, the Dragoon lieutenants are kind of hanging about within those guys. Let's get this sentry out of the way, maybe. Or maybe not. Maybe we'll just get everything. Who knows? Well, not great. But let's see if we can at least kill the lieutenant. And then we can get out of here. If necessary. Uh-oh. Alrighty. Got the lieutenant update. That's nice. That was for calling in the forest. And so the next part of that is finding the various ward monuments. But a quest for a later moment, because, as mentioned, I must go and get some things done. So we will call it right here in the middle of this path, I think. And I'll be back later. It'll be maybe an hour, hour and a half, or something like that before I make it back. As usual, it was a pleasure streaming with you all, and I hope to see you there later. If you're not following me, go ahead and do that, and turn on notifications so that you can see when I go live. So, goodbye for now.